Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I have a treat for you this week. So, as many of you know, I talk about the Academy a lot, the Coaching Business Academy, which is my wonderful 6-month business accelerator for ambitious coaches. And what I've decided to do is to invite some of the alumni from the Coaching Business Academy onto the podcast. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, of course, is completely self-serving because I want you to understand the caliber of coaches that we have inside of the Academy who are building phenomenal, profitable businesses. But the second reason is that it's kind of the same. These are phenomenal coaches without exception. And they all are different. They have different coaching niches. They have different coaching approaches. But the one thing they do all have in common is that I believe they all have a great message to share. And so I'm really excited for this little, I guess it's like a mini series, really. So I am thrilled to be able to bring you these amazing coaches so that you can hear their stories, so that you can hear what they have going on since they have been a member of the Coaching Business Academy, and generally so that they can share their wisdom, because I have learned so much from the coaches that I have been training and teaching inside the Academy. So it's an incredibly exciting opportunity for me to now invite them onto the podcast. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing some really diverse coaches with you, lots of different niches, lots of different stories to tell, and I think you're going to love it. And so in today's episode, I am thrilled to introduce to you Anand Quinn. Anand is a life and meditation coach, and she specialises in emotional wellness. So she's going to tell you all about her journey from her background in HR to her deep experience in the world of meditation. And she's going to explain how she brings those things together as she serves her clients. Anand has suffered her own inner struggles, and having come out the other side, she's now super passionate about offering this kind of coaching to others who want to move from the dark into the light. Isn't that amazing? So without further ado, let's dive into the episode and let me introduce you to Anand. Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I'm Jill Mokes, and I am obsessed with cutting through the noise when it comes to growing your business. Each week, via intimate coaching conversations and inspirational stories, I share what it really takes to get the results you want, in a way that feels right to you. I am all about attracting higher ticket opportunities, building authentic relationships, and creating the abundant, full-fat version of your dream business. I mean, how many of us have beavered away creating a light version of what we really want? The thing is, I honestly believe when you're outstanding at what you do, there is no limit to what you can achieve. So, are you ready to put our heads together and make it happen? Let's go. Hey, Anand, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Jill. It's lovely to be here.
I'm very excited to have you here. You are actually the first Academy alumni that I am having the pleasure to interview.
Brilliant. Because I know I've been in the first cohort as well, and it's been amazing for me. Absolutely amazing.
Oh, you're so kind. I'm really glad. That's just music to my ears. So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on today, because the reason I was so keen to have you and some of the other alumni from the Academy onto the podcast to interview was that, without exception, you are all just freaking amazing coaches. And I'm not going to say that was a stroke of luck on my part, of course, because it was a very carefully curated experience. But I do feel incredibly fortunate that we have this entire cohort, or 2 cohorts now, of alumni students who, without exception, are just such good coaches, and lots of different kinds of coaches too. And Anand, you are an emotional wellness coach. And I was wondering if we could kick off by you maybe giving us a little bit of your story, but then also telling us what an emotional wellness coach is.
Sure. Listen, thanks so much. And I agree. There's such a lovely broad spread of us in the alumni. So for me, how I became an emotional wellness coach, well, initially I was just a coach. I wasn't quite sure what type of coach I was going to be. And actually, I felt like being in the coaching academy helped me get my niche, get really clear on who I'm serving, who are my people that I can work with. So before that, so just a little bit of my background. I work part-time in HR as I'm building up my coaching business. And particularly in HR, there's an awful lot of people issues and where things can go wrong. And I also really specialized for years in employer relations. So I often saw a lot of, breakdowns between different cohorts of people. And it was always kind of cleaning up those issues. Alongside of that, I have also been a meditation facilitator for over 10 years. So right. I'm really interested in the whole inner work and the inner world, and my own personal journey in sort of personal development started 25 years ago when I went through a divorce and my son was about a year old, and I just felt like everything was coming in on me. It was in 1999 and I was reading The Road Less Traveled, this book by Scott Peck, and it just changed everything for me. So that was like the beginning of my own personal development journey and kind of working on myself. And it's something I still continue to this day.
It's a never ending journey, right?
It is a never, yeah, absolutely. It never stops.
And I love that book too. And I probably read that book, The Road Less Traveled. I reckon I read that probably the same year you did. Isn't that funny?
Really?
Yeah, I reckon so. Amazing.
The first 3 parts of that book, I got really angry with. Like I was raging. I didn't want discipline. I didn't want balance. I didn't want any of those delayed gratifications and all of that. But when I got to the section on grace, that blew me away.
I'm going to link to this book in the comments because everyone should read this book, right?
Yeah, definitely. Did he write it in 1978?
I would say so.
Because he's known as the father of self-help. Yeah.
It's just a classic, isn't it?
So from that, kind of my life went on and lots of bumps and turns and things like that. I suppose, how do I put this? I've had a difficult life and I've overcome a lot of different challenges, significant challenges. I lost a sister to suicide in 2005.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was really, there's no way of dressing it up. It is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say about that, but what I do know is that she was in this deep darkness.
Mm-hmm.
From that, something in me was realizing that I think it triggered a lot of things in me, but I didn't look at life in the same way ever again.
I can imagine.
Yeah. From that, I kind of started getting a lot of counseling and therapy and things. I needed that for that and other things. And that continued on. And then in 2013, I discovered OSHO. So OSHO is an Indian guru. He's quite controversial.
We love a bit of controversy on this podcast.
He's the cosmic joker.
Bring it.
He loves to tell a good joke.
Right.
But he created active meditations where you do an activity first before you go into silence. And he designed it for the modern man and woman because our lifestyle is so intense. And his work, everything he shared transformed everything inside of me.
Right.
So I was like going through life flatlining, kind of just barely existing. And from the meditations, I was releasing a lot of old wounds, a lot of emotions, whatever, just really getting in touch and feeling the joy of life. And that's like, I've gone from misery to bliss. My name, Anand, it's a chosen name. It means bliss. So I know how, that's kind of where I've gone from. And so I know that the answer is through coming to terms with and owning all of our emotions. It's a bit of a long-winded way of saying how I become an emotional wellness coach.
Oh, I'm happy that you shared that though, because I think you've really made it clear that you have had two very big extremes. You use strong words there. Misery and bliss.
Yeah.
I love that because I think you talk a lot about, what happens when we avoid our emotions. I don't know if anyone else listening is feeling this as well, but almost hearing those words makes us a little bit tense. Misery. It's like, it's such a strong word. Bliss. It's like, we're British. Do we say anything? Or I'm British. We don't use those extremes of words. I think that's so interesting because almost the way you describe it is almost like giving us a demonstration of how we are actively mostly avoiding emotions just because of how it brings something up. Just hearing those words. Maybe for me, I'd love to hear from anyone listening if it had the same effect on them. But definitely for me, it was like, oh, gosh, those are strong words to describe that pendulum swing from misery to bliss. So tell me a bit more about how that resulted in you becoming an emotional wellness coach and how you decided that was the secret, this embracing all of who you are, all of the emotion, all of the depth of the inner self.
So where I came across coaching in my work as HR. I used to work for a US company and they invested a lot in coaching. And I remember going along as the support for all these leaders, going along and doing the coaching. And I loved the process of coaching, the inquiry, the reflections, the actions, and turning insights into action. And I thought, that's the way I'm going to go. I'm going to be a leadership coach and I'm going to go there. So that's where I thought, do the HR-y thing and all of that.
Obvious choice. Yeah.
And then I went through a burnout. I was out sick for 3 months and I was also recovering from alcoholism. That was about 2 years ago and everything was just really not good. And I realized that my inability to meet all the parts of myself, my anger, my fear, my disgust. I talk about this on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where I'm going through a journey of the emotions at the moment. When you shove them away and put them in a box and say, now off you go, you stay there. What happens is I always think of them as like little monsters kind of going, well, we're going to have to come out some way or other. And that's when it comes out in the behaviors. Whether it's, in my case, it was drinking to numb out, or it could be numbing out in other ways. It can be excessive shopping.
Eating. That's me.
Oh, that's another one of mine. I
eat the emotions.
Yeah, I eat through anger, all of that. And then it can come out in other ways, like we might spend money that we don't have to pacify ourselves, or we make panic decisions, like when we're buying things. If you think about how much emotion goes into people when they're buying a house, for example, or when they're investing, or even when we're being sold to. And I know you talk a lot about this in your podcast and things like that, this pushing sales. All the emotions are there. If you're a people pleaser, you buy something just to be nice to the salesperson.
Right.
But what's under the hood of driving the people pleasing? A fear of not being liked, and it's fear. So how I work with clients is we go under the hood. We look at the inner struggle. I use this word, that I support those who are weighed down by inner struggles. We look at the inner struggle and we go, what is it? What's underneath it? What's driving it? Understanding it. And then let's taking a step-by-step approach with a plan to move out of that so that you're not driven by people pleasing.
Yeah. It's so interesting because you know that I say this all the time, that we are always our own ideal client, just further along the road. You know, we were a previous iteration of ourselves was at one point our own ideal client. I'm really hearing that from you. It's almost like you now give people the support that you would have given anything to have when, I'm guessing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you know, the support that you needed when you were in that misery place.
Mm. And it was like that. And it's funny because I didn't want to name the kind of coach I was until I did your coaching academy. You know, when we did the Unearth Your Edge and I was talking about the backstory and I was like, oh, I don't want to publicly say that. But that's when it came for me of like, I am my own ideal client. And those that I've been working with, I set up a year ago, those that I'm working with, they're dealing with different types of inner struggles. Not many people are going to comment on my things because they're not fun, light, fluffy things. Do you know?
That's a really good point, actually. Can I just say, because this is a good point for people listening. So for any coaches listening who get very sad about lack of engagement, say, on their stuff, on their posts, on their blogs, on their podcasts, that kind of thing, I just want you to remember that as coaches, we often work with people who don't or aren't at the place where they particularly want to publicize the fact that they need that kind of support. So I think it's really important that as coaches that we don't take that as a sign that something we're doing isn't working. Your podcast is phenomenal. I'm going to link to it in the show notes because what I really love, I am a sucker for a series. And what I love about what you're doing at the moment by going through the different emotions is there's this like golden thread running through it. It's like I suppose it's a bit like, you know, when you find a series like that you like on TV, like on Netflix or something, and it's almost like you really can't wait for the next one. I feel like that about series on podcasts, on YouTube, that kind of thing. I love a good series and I would highly recommend yours. I am going to link to it in the show notes, like I say, because I think there is something relatable in everything because we all have these emotions. And I guess there are different emotions that different people tend to avoid, right? Because I know for myself, I am a very confident person. But also, there is a part of me that I can't stand anyone to feel sorry for me. Now, I don't know what emotion that is or, you know, how to name that really, but I really can't bear that. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know where that comes from, but there is definitely this feeling of it makes me feel uncomfortable. But the thing that I guess I struggle with is I struggle to kind of name that or label it. Can I ask you something? Is it important to not avoid an emotion? Is it important that we are able to name it or label it in some way?
That's a beautiful question. What I would say is that a lot of people don't know their emotions. They don't know what it is. They just feel something in their body or something in their mind. Even, I'll tell you, in myself, when I first started therapy, I didn't feel anything. I was like a zombie. So I would ask anyone to consider, do you want to continue being a zombie?
Yeah.
Most people are going to say, no way. All right. Then also they might say, well, I don't want to feel all that stuff either. It's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But, and this will come in my series of videos when I get to the final penultimate thing of the emotions and the value they have. So I'm slightly forecasting. When we don't allow the negative emotions that we call negative, you know, fear, disgust, anger, all of those. When we don't allow them, we can't also have the space for the joy, the laughter. They can't happen. You have to feel both. And to your question, do you need to name the emotion? A yes and no answer is coming up inside of me. It's like the awareness is important. So I use this thing of inner struggles, but I also help clients to get to see their inner richness. So it's all about the inner work, Yeah, sure, you can fix something on the outside. You can, fix your boat. And the other thing is you'll find yourself that you're always trying to fix other people.
Yeah.
Turn the mirror around and look at yourself. I do that all the time. If I have an attitude with somebody or something, okay, Anand, turn the mirror around. What part of you inside of there is having a difficulty? And once I can work on myself, I'm not interfering or bothering with anyone else. So you may not be able to name the emotion, but to be aware that something is off, I feel is important.
That's so interesting. I have to say that I've been working on and getting much better at accepting that, I'm the only person I can control.
Yeah.
And since then, I do find myself doing exactly what you just said. I don't think I'd have been able to describe it as well as that, but that turning the mirror. So if I'm angry, say with Dave for something, and I can't control what he's doing, and often it will be something quite small, and I am getting much better now at turning that mirror and saying, why is this making me feel this way? What is it about this specific thing that's making me feel angry or sad or just emotional in some way? I don't know about you, but I believe it's something we have to very intentionally practice. It doesn't come naturally to me to do that.
No, because we're not taught that. If you think about as children, you're given a sweet to be quiet. You're told to be quiet. We're conditioned to not allow something out, and to be a certain way. So we're not taught this.
Oh, that's huge.
I know I'm starting to go very deep now, but it's something that fascinates me. I'll give an example. I was in the park today and man was with his child and it was beautiful daffodils everywhere. And he stands the child to take a picture and the child does as told. And then the child is like going to the dad, like pointing at all the daffodils. Oh, look, and he's feeling awe and it's like, and the dad's on the phone, just looking at the phone to get the right picture.
Oh.
So the child's emotion is kind of awe, but it's not getting any feedback.
Yeah.
So then it might not bother saying it the next time. Or, that's kind of where I'm fascinated to really get in touch with all the parts of ourselves. Because actually, one of my videos I was talking about is that how much do you laugh? How deep is your laughter? Because even we control our laughter.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of us do. My next door neighbours wouldn't agree.
I love your laugh, Jill. I love your laugh. I love
thanks.
your joyousness. You're like you're a daffodil, It's like you're such a sunshine person.
Oh, thank you. But of course, that's not all the time, right?
No.
That's not all the time. And I think sometimes there's this misunderstanding, isn't there, that when we talk about anything like changing how we express our emotions or how we avoid our emotions, it's almost like, well, is there an expectation then that I have to be happy all the time? But it isn't about that, is it? Can we explore that a little bit? It's not about having to only experience the positive emotions and project those. It's not that.
Thank you for asking this question. I'm allergic to what I call fake positivity. I really struggle. I can't stand it. I've been in the sort of wellness world, the meditation world for over 10 or 11 years, been to lots of different workshops and some are great and some are just saccharine that make me I feel physically ill. They're too much because there's a word called spiritual bypassing that you actually are bypassing.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yeah. Where you're literally only focusing on the light. So positive vibes, be positive. But like, what makes something beautiful? And that's one of my values, right? It's like, what makes something beautiful? What makes a painting beautiful? What brings up the color? The darkness.
Right.
We can't have the sun without the moon. We can't have day without night. Why would we cut away half of what we exist in?
Because, so just to take that analogy and about cutting away, what happens then if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, this is kind of resonating with me. I feel like I had a childhood where I wasn't able to express any negative emotion. I can relate to that. So, you know, I was brought up in a household where you certainly didn't ever say you were bored. You didn't really show if you were unhappy about anything. And yeah, almost there was an expectation that, you know, you have so much to be grateful for. You should be happy all the time.
Yes.
And so I think if you've been brought up in that where your emotions have had to be repressed, what does that do longer term for you in terms of, as an adult, how you manage your emotions?
So, you know, I'm going to cite a few examples, all anonymous, because of course people come to me with in confidence and with some sort of kind of real inner struggles. But for example, you know, I had a client who said that I'm really unmotivated, you know, and they said they were lazy. And they called themselves lazy.
Yeah.
They weren't lazy. They were kind of navigating some real inner struggles. But when we looked at the evidence of all the things that they've done, they just didn't see it. They had this kind of, you know, like a horse with the blinkers on, and, you know, that's all they could see. I'm lazy, I'm lazy, I'm lazy. And this is what they were told.
That was the narrative they had.
Yeah. We started to challenge that. Well, where's the evidence that you're lazy? And actually, this is where my HR can be really helpful, you know, and it's like, well, where's the evidence? So you start to look at it, and they couldn't see any evidence that they were lazy. So then they were starting to go, well, maybe if I'm not lazy, then who am I? What am I? So they started to say, well, what things do you do?
Is that something that you come up against, not against, but come up with a lot in coaching your clients? Is it, I would imagine, is this scenario where you kind of help them see the truth, perhaps, of part of their struggle? Like the example you just gave, you know, where's the evidence that you're lazy? Oh, okay, maybe that was just a story. What then kind of happens is the next stage when someone has uncovered something like, what is the next stage? You know, what do they do with that when they've uncovered it?
Oh, Jill, this is where I get really emotional, because then they start to really see themselves, and they start to see their strengths and their abilities, and they start to physically change. They actually start to go, oh, I'm able to this and I'm able to do that. I had one person say, I've gone from the dark into the light, and I roared crying after the session. Because I went, this is why I'm doing this work. This is what it's all about.
As coaches, I can honestly say there is no money in the bank. There is no kind of publicity. There is nothing that even comes close to just a client saying, you've changed my life. You've changed this tiny part of my life. I don't know. You know, would you agree as coaches, there's just nothing comes close to that feeling. It is why we do what we do. Of course, it's why we do what we do, right?
But they came to it themselves. They got there themselves. You know, I ask the questions, I guide things, but they do the work. They do the digging. And so it's theirs, and they own it. And no one told them you need to be this. Because you know the way everyone goes, you need to do this and you need to do that and you have to do this and fit this. That drives me insane, because it's external. It's still this you do. Yeah. A person needs the space that it comes from within.
That's true coaching, right? I'm not putting a downer on myself at all, because I know I'm a good business coach.
She's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That wasn't me fishing for compliments, but carry on. No, I'm joking. I would put my hand up and say there are better coaches than me in terms of that transformational. And I can say this to you because you're a fellow coach, holding space, that allowing the client to do the work. And you just said something which for me sums it up completely. They get to own it. You haven't bestowed on them some gift. You've absolutely played your part as an incredible coach, but they get to own what they've just done, the work they've just put in to change. Your example earlier, from misery to bliss. I mean, my God, you know, that's transformation. We talk about transformation, transformational coaching. We talk about that all the time. I'm not sure there's any more transformational kind of coaching than really helping someone. Manage is probably the wrong word, but understand their emotional well-being the way you help them understand it. Because, and the reason I really believe that's true, is that inner work, it unlocks the key to anything or everything they ever want to do in their life moving forward, right? All of the shit that's kept them stuck can be unlocked by this work.
Yeah. And it's intense, so it's a little bit at a time. Do you know? It can be intense.
Tell me about that. It must be. This can't be easy work.
No, I mean, for me, I love it. And that's why I also became an emotional wellness coach. I've always been the go-to person of, Anand, I have this problem, and I would listen and I would whatever. So I thought, why not bring it into what you do? Do you know what I mean? So I am that person that people can come to and trust and talk to about really deep stuff.
Yeah.
But for the clients, some will say, well, look, I'll only do a 30-minute session with you, and some might be only once every fortnight or whatever it is, because they need the time to process it. And it's funny because we do go through it. I've noticed a pattern where, we start dealing with the inner struggle, whatever it is. It could be overwhelm. It could be people pleasing. It could be procrastination is another big one, or whatever it is. They will start with that. And then there's this like mucky period, as I call it, where it's almost like, when you're weeding the garden and you can't see any light at it because it's overgrown. And
yeah.
You're working away at it, but you think, I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah. You don't feel like you're making any progress. Yeah. I know that feeling well.
Well, that's what happens. They go through this period of, and then suddenly, I don't know when, it's just something clicks, something pops. Then the transformation, they start to see the results. They start to see it. Oh, there's a clearing here. I can breathe a bit more. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do that. And that's when it starts to happen.
That piece that you've said a couple of times, it's like they get to this point where they're like, oh, now I feel I can do this. I can do that. Tell me a bit more about that, because I think we often talk about transformational coaching. As coaches, we love talking about that, right? But the transformation isn't just the problem that you're helping them overcome. It's also how they transition from the them that they were when they started working with you to the them that they can now be after working with you. I'd love to talk a bit about that. What happens? How do they take the work that they've done with you around emotional wellness, around whatever their particular struggles were that they have been set free from? Yeah. How do they take that and move forward with it?
I'm also a very practical person. So it's like, how do I bring this into my everyday life? I even do that with meditation. How do I bring meditation into my work, into my life? So with the clients, it's like they'll uncover something and they'll see how it was holding them back in their life. So I'm just trying to think of an example of, so one individual that I've been working with, they weren't really getting things done. Mm-hmm. And their attention was going on something else. I don't want to say too much, but their attention was going on something else and all the energy was going there and it was draining.
Yeah.
So then they took themselves out of that thing that was draining, and then they started to do like one small thing. Oh, I got that done. And they looked at the emotions of what was driving it. But at the same time, we were doing practical steps of what 1 or 2, 3 things can you do in your day to make, I don't know. Their thing was decluttering, so it was like, how do I declutter? Oh, well, I did this and then I did this and then that was happening. And the really sweet spot was they got so productive that they did 2 things at the one time. They delegated something to someone else and then they were able to have the time to do something else. So now that they're seeing, oh, I'm getting things done.
And they're aware of that progression.
Yes,
too.
yes.
So that's how rewarding is that?
I also really believe in building the fun factor, like somebody else I'm working with, and their thing is overwhelm. And they really are struggling with that. And they've virtually no time for themselves because they're giving it away to everyone to please them. So in their case, it's like when they saw that they only have 3 hours per week for themselves, which is 5% of their time, they got shocked.
Yeah.
So I might use a combination of data and using maths as best I can. I'm not a maths person, but you know what I'm saying?
Can I just say, I think you're slightly underestimating yourself here, because I know that you have designed a tool that really helps people, because I think this is flipping amazing, helps people see where their time is going.
Yeah.
So you kindly let me have a little play with this tool, and it is absolutely incredible. It's so bloody easy to use as well, because with me, anything like that has to have a very low barrier to entry, because otherwise I'm like, oh, it's too complicated. I can't do it. So it's so easy to use. And what I love about it is, like, as soon as you type in your, like, keep track of your hours of where your time's going, you get this like instant visual representation of it as well. So for me, for my brain that needs things to be presented to me really simply, it was so powerful. It was so interesting. And the thing is as well, it's not a judgmental tool, everyone. It's not going to like start a bell ringing if you're spending too much time eating or whatever. But it's a really useful tool. When I started doing it, I had this story going around in my head. This was my story. I waste so much time in the evening just watching TV. So I work really hard during the day. I coach, I do work on my business, I do marketing, I do all of the other things that I do, right? And then I eat my dinner, sit on the sofa and go to bed. That was the story that was in my head and that I would constantly beat myself up about and be like, oh, you just waste all this time in the evenings. What was so interesting is that when I used your tool and actually got honest about the different things that I was doing in the evening, I wasn't just sitting and watching TV every evening for hours. It was a story that I was using to say, you could do better, Jill. Do better. You know, I was being mean to myself with it, with this story. And so it was a lovely exercise for me in being like, good job. That was a story. And actually, you're not wasting that much time. And if you do want to sit on the sofa for a few hours every week watching TV, why the hell not? Look at all the other things you do.
That is fantastic.
Honestly, so good. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That in itself, so valuable. And you know how I always go on, don't I, about, you know, for anyone, if you want to find and enroll coaching clients, you need to be giving them a taste of what it's like to be in your world, what it's like to be coached by you, what a tool is like that you might provide. You know, you've got to be generous. And I think you are beyond generous as well, Anand, because you've got your YouTube show, which is so good. You've got free things like this. So the really good news for anyone listening who's just listened to me waxing lyrical about this little tool is that my understanding is that you have very generously put together a incredible resource for anyone listening to the podcast and for people in general to be able to download. And it includes the tool that I'm talking about. Is that right?
It does. I will be launching very, very imminently. Any day soon.
Well, it will definitely be launched by the time.
This is out, it'll be launched. Literally days away. But it's a lead magnet of 5 ways to tackle overwhelm. And it includes the time wheel. And I'm thrilled that that time wheel brought that to you. And it helped kind of deconstruct a story that you had about yourself. Because that's what my work's about. Sometimes we have these stories about ourselves that we say, we're very self-judgy. We really are. And it's because so many other people are going, oh, well, you're this and you're that. And so rather than them getting in there and judging us, we'll get in there faster and go, oh, no. So I'll judge myself before you can.
That's so true. We do
I
that.
know, because I do it all the time.
Yeah. So that's what's so clever about this tool is that I was able to get in really granular as well about how I was spending my time. And also I can totally see how just that knowledge, just that unpicking of the story that I was telling myself about how I was spending my time, I can see if you are someone that is feeling overwhelmed, actually being able to perhaps use the tool and see where you can free up time or where you actually have more time than you thought you were. And you've created a story that you don't have time to do the things you want to do. So it's just a win-win. It's such a clever tool. And thank you so much for letting me have a play with it.
Thank you.
Perfect. And we will definitely link to that lead magnet in the show notes, because I really urge anyone listening who wants to, well, first of all, who wants to learn about overwhelm and about the ways that you can really come out from under that, definitely get this lead magnet, but also just this time tool, even that on its own, download it for that, because you will be amazed at what it gives you back, and very quickly. What I like is it's not one of those things where you've got to kind of send away and wait for 28 days for your answer or whatever. It's just, yeah, I love it.
No, instant and simple. That's what I'm always aiming for.
Instant and simple. I love it. I love it so much. And thank you so much for coming on today. I feel like this has been one of those really rich conversations, and I know that people listening will have got so much. One, from hearing you share your story so openly with us. I thank you for that. But also, just there is something about the more we have these conversations and the more we say, you know, it's okay to rewrite our stories. It's absolutely okay to be honest about who we are and embrace all of it. I think the more people feel able to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. And I wouldn't have kind of got really clarity the way I have if I hadn't have actually been with you in the Coaching Business Academy. I would have been still a bit floundering. I know I'm a good coach, but I was stuck. So actually, I wanted to thank you as well, because the Academy is amazing. I really genuinely mean that. So anyone listening and you're thinking, I need some solid, practical, great advice, because you're really practical too.
I am. I'm a do this thing next person.
Thank you, Jill.
Oh, thank you, Anand. I really appreciate that. That's lovely. Thank you. And you see, people, if you're listening to this, this is the last thing I'm going to add on before Lena kills me and says, stop pretending that you're finishing and that not finishing. Just Anand giving me that beautiful testimonial, really, for the Academy, right? This is what happens when we work with the right clients, when we're very aligned with, and we're very clear with our clients about what we do and what they can expect. And when we deliver on our promises, you know, we don't have to sell our coaching. Our clients and our alumni clients do it for us. That's what I want for everyone listening as well, is that, you know, coaches like Anand just don't come along all the time. We have an industry that is full of people calling themselves coaches. And then you have some absolute gems like you, Anand, who are the real deal. And I just want to thank you so much for that. Okay.
Thank you for having me, Jill.
You're so welcome. So welcome. I hope you'll come back. Everyone listening, thank you for being with me. I know you have lots of choices of where to put your ears every week. So thank you for choosing this podcast. And I hope you'll join me again, same time, same place next week. Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that getting our heads together this week has filled your mind with what's possible. If you love the show, would you do me a massive favour, please? Would you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts? It would really help me put more heads together, reach more ears and expand more minds. Until next week, bye for now.